morning, everyone. Welcome from a very cold, chilly solstice morning. So I wish you a wonderful solstice. And the solstice caught me a little bit off guard, starting a new channel. I wasn't quite aware that the energies that I was contemplating could be useful to put into a little video. So I have a class in a little while, so I thought let's jump on. I wish you a beautiful solstice. And I would like to share my perspective, give my little 2 cents of the solstice energy for you. And what I would like to do is look at it in terms of the archetypal energies that are so rich to give us the symbolism that we could use to tune into this energy. And the real reason is that we can make the most of this extraordinary energy that the solstice is bringing to us and use it for our highest benefit and the highest benefit of the collective, the planet, and our brothers and sisters. So the archetypes that are, first I want to look at the numerology of the solstice day, because you may be aware that I do numerology and do readings for people. So I don't always tune into the energy of every day, but when it is something so profound and significant like the solstice, it's really worth looking at what is what can numerology teach us about the energies and the potentials of this day. So I want to look at that. Then I want to look at 2 archetypal symbols that the energy of the numerology helps express in terms of archetypes. And the first one is in the tarot that I use in numerology. The energy of today is what they call the tower in the tarot deck. So I want to look at the energy of the tower. And then Carolyn Mace have done some amazing work on archetypes. And the archetypes that expresses the energy of today is the archetype of the shapeshifter. So we've got some interesting things to look at, and let's jump in. So the first thing is I will be making some videos on numerology. So I won't go into the depth of it, but in numerology, the basic principle is that you take all the numbers and reduce it to a single digit to get the essence of the energy. So that's the first aspect. The second aspect of numerology that I want to say is that the numbers is not just one symbol or one energy. It expresses itself as a frequency, as a vibration, as an energy signature in a continuum. So for example, if we take the number 1, in numerology, we can look at the expression of that 1 on the continuum. However, we look at it in 3. So we look at the positive, the balanced aspect of that number 1, which is what you want to do with that energy. And then we look at the underdeveloped expression of the energy and the destructive development of the energy. So what this really means is that if you use numerology as a vibrational energy medicine of awareness, it says that you bring everything that's in the unconscious to the conscious so that you can become aware. And in my mind, that is what true enlightenment is. It is nothing is hidden, nothing is suppressed, but it's brought to the surface into the light so that you can look at it and then transmute it or embrace it or use it for its highest benefit. So if I'm going to talk today about some of the elements of today or the energy that sounds perhaps negative, it isn't. It is just saying, looking at all the potentials, look at your life, see if you see some of these examples, and then decide how are you going to respond towards that and how are you going to transmute that into the positive if that is what you want. So if we look at today, so we take the 21st of the 6 months 2023, and what we do is we take these 3 individuals and we first reduce it to a single digit, then we add it together to get to the final number. So 21 is 2 and 1 is 3, and then we add the 6 that's already reduced to its essence, and we add 2023, which comes to 7, And that is the universal number for this year. But as I've said to some of my clients, that is where you want to go. But if you look at the energy of the universal year, it more is what we call a 16-7 year. So, however, if we take the 3 plus the 6 plus the 7 and we add it together, then we get 16. And 1 and 6 is 7. So that is the final reduced essence of the day number. However, what stands behind it is 16. In numerology, that 16 is quite profound. There are certain numbers like 19, 10, 13, 4, 16, 7, 14, 5. Those numbers indicate to the numerologist that the energies that go before it are quite disruptive. They call it the karmic numbers, they call it the malefic numbers. I call it the transformational numbers. And numerology, like everything else, is developing. So I'm moving away from seeing it as negative. I see it as transformative. So, in essence, what the 16-7 means is that there are things that are not working and that needs to change. And often the 16-7 manifests as a change very suddenly. The archetype in the tarot that is associated with the 16-7 is the tower. So there is this very sudden change that happens. And people tremble with fear at the image of the tower. And who would not? Because probably one of our core fears are the unknown and change. So the 16-7 indicates sudden change. And that can come in various forms. So the area that the 16-7 governs is ardent passion, love, relationships, out of balance energies. So if sudden change is required to clear the air, to bring it back to balance, then you can look at typically 16-7 governs things like relationships that are not working, which could end in divorce. 16-7 can be the divorce number. It also governs areas like passion, cheating on one another, betrayal, very much a 16-7 energy. And that can be in a relationship that we have with our family. It could be that we feel betrayed by our government, by our country, by the military, whatever. That is that kind of betrayal in relationship to something else. It could also be that you feel betrayed by your body if you have a sudden illness or something to that effect. And lastly, it is that's what I wanted to add. The other aspect it can be is it's often related to alcoholism, your relationship to substances that hold you, specifically alcohol. And is alcohol not one of those substances that cause tremendous disruption in relationships? So what this truly means is the 16-7 governs that ardent energy, but it is to do very much with the ego. So if you are too associated with your ego, you will tend to have destructive relationships. You will have things to change. So what the 16-7 is showing you is that you have to transmute the 16 into the pure essence of the 7. And what is the 7? The 7 calls you within. So if you are not growing spiritually and you are not seeing the changes, often when we have a 16-7 energy come into our life, please believe me, we've had plenty of warning or symbols or messages from our unconscious. Often people would say, if somebody cheats on them, I knew it, but I didn't want to acknowledge it. So the 16 energy comes when you have a resistance to change. So if you can take what is happening in your life, go within, contemplate it, reflect upon it, and then act through your higher self to change it, then that 16 energy either will not appear into your life or you will flow with it like a river. If we are very stuck, that energy might come. So we may see it as negative, but it is actually, if you can look at it in a positive way, it is divine grace to come and change. So for example, if you're stuck in a job that you're unhappy, but you're too scared to leave. Your boss might call you in and say, things are not going well, we have to let some people go, and here's your package. And so maybe it will be a tremendous shock, but afterwards you could look back and say, thank goodness for that, because it shifted me into something new. So that is the 16-7 energy in a nutshell. There's much more to tell, but that's what it means. So if we look at the energy of the solstice, it comes to a 16 energy, 16-7 energy. But I want to talk a bit about the universal year. I said to you that 2023 adds up to a 7. However, if you look at this year, it's much more a 16-7 year than a 7 year, in my opinion. And one has to look at numbers symbolically and also step away from it. So often, if things are not in balance, one tends to go to the destructive. So the destructive part of the number 7 is the 16-7. So if you just look at this year, the 16-7, the tower energy that happens sudden and fast, is often like an earthquake. It maybe shake your own world, but it can also shake the world outside of you. And have we not had tremendous earthquakes? I think of the ones in Syria and Turkey that have caused a lot of devastation. And can you imagine the tower energy that was in some people's lives? And lo and behold, we even had what they called an earthquake here in Johannesburg. I think it was on the 16th of June. Woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning with the walls shaking. And, some people say it's the mines, but it felt truly like an earthquake. So that happened. And if we look at what is happening in the world, I've recently looked at a video of some independent scientists who have measured the move of the magnetic north. And they say that it's actually hit, I think on the 17th of June, it's hit the 40-degree mark. Now, if you know what that truly means, apparently every couple of thousand years, 12,000, I'm not quite sure, the magnetic north makes these movements. And that can cause a pole flip. Apparently that happened with a great flood. So I'm not saying we're going to have anything like that, but it even shows you that in the magnetic field of the earth, there are these incredible changes that causing a flip, and that the signs of the times are there. So we cannot be like an ostrich and put your head in the sand and say, I don't want to know about that. However, you are aware of these things, but you don't freak out about it, because part of the journey of the yogi, or where the yogic perspective is so valuable, is what the 16-7 should do to you is say, who am I in relation to all of this? If my life is turned upside down, it drives you within. And what question do you need to ask? The right question is, who am I? And Sri Ramana Maharshi, the great sage of India and Arunachala, that was the gift that he gave to the world, his treatise of who am I? And that is the right question. And that is what you need to answer for yourself. And if you really deeply contemplate that, become silent, go into meditation, then what enlightenment tells you is that you realize that you are that you are part of the divine, that you are not separate from anybody else, and you are not separate from your source. So what it means, and what 16-7 is doing, and the potent energy of the solstice, is it's drawing us within to our true nature. So if we look at the energy of the Tara, instead of having the tower that falls, we go within and we realize we are the light. We are the lighthouse, not the tower that falls. And so the potency of this energy truly is to say, who am I? And I do believe that this very turbulent energy brings change and opens, you can call it a portal, you can call it the 0 point, but I believe today has a potent energy for you to tune into that space of the heart, in the center of the heart, where what Drunvalo Melchizedek calls the sacred space in the heart, where in that space there is no time, there is no yesterday, tomorrow, there's only now. And it's only in the moment of now that you can change yourself. So the yogic perspective also says that everything that happens in the outside world is really a reflection of what is happening inside. And that the true power to change is not to try and change others or necessarily the outside world. I'm not saying you're not going to change the outside world, but it should come from the inside. If you are going to try and change your world or the world outside from the perspective of the ego, the little self, you're going to have tower events. If you go within and you acknowledge, connect into that universal energy where you are not better than anybody else or worse than anybody else, but you see that point of connection, non-judgmental awareness, that is how change is manifested. And when you ask that question, who am I? The yogic scriptures also tell you, well, this is yoga everything, so please forgive me if I refer to the yogic sages. They have been my compass for many, many years. The yogic scriptures teach you that your true nature is Sat, Chit, Ananda. Sat is truth, Chit is awareness, and Ananda is bliss. So, if you are wondering whether you are who you should be, look at whether you are worrying, whether you are stressing, whether you are freaking out, or whether you can come to that place of stillness and realize, I am connected to Source. I am Sat Chit Ananda. I am peace. I am bliss. I am gratitude. I am joy. If you can tune into that sacred space in the heart, you will be so much more able to deal with the turbulence in the outside world. The outside world always changes. It is the terror events, the changes, the emotions, illness, all of those things are happening. But you have to take a little bit of a step back and not deny what is happening in your life, but say, who am I in relation to that? And when you feel that connectedness, which I'm working on myself, I mean, I'm rattling like everybody else with all the sudden changes in my life, it helps to know what the truth is. And the truth is that you are divinely connected to everybody else. Now, what is interesting in my life is not only is today a 16/7 day and the universal year 16 universal year, but my personal year is a 16/7 year. So if your year is a 16/7 years like mine, you may find these tower events. And they are like, again, in the yogic tradition, you could say it's like the energy of Mother Kali that comes in and sweeps away what doesn't serve you anymore. I remember when I was a little girl, I had a boil at the back of my neck, and my mother put a plaster on. And I didn't want her to come near me because it was incredibly painful. And my mother looked at me and waited. And she realized that this was now ripe and that it had to come out. And she just walked past and she ripped that plaster off. And I was so shocked and I think I wanted to cry, but all of a sudden it was open and it was clear. The wound can be cleaned and it healed. So if you are in tune and you've cleared out most of you've dealt with your energies, you're in tune with yourself, then a 16/7 energy is gentle. It's gentle, it takes you within, it brings you into the inner world, it lets you look to the world from your inner perspective. It governs things, the pure energy of the seven. It governs energies like specialization, like very focusing, very detailed on your life and your mission with great attention. Being truly spiritual, understanding what spirituality means for you, and the difference perhaps between religion and spirituality, and then living from the inside out. That is the pure energy of the seven, and that is what the solstice calls us to. The other interesting thing is, I'm speaking from Johannesburg here, is that, and when I looked at when the actual solstice moment is, it was just so beautifully and symbolic. I think the time is 4:57 this afternoon. And if you add 4 and 5 and 7, what do you get? You get 16:7. So again, they say that if you have three, you have everything. So, and that was the symbolism for me. The time is a 16:7. The day is a 16:7. And the year is a 16:7. And if you put those three together and you collapse them in the center of the heart, you have this tremendous opportunity for transformation and change. And so the beauty of this is, if you understand it truly, if there is something that is in your life that is stuck and that is not working, if you truly go within, you do not have to go through a tower event, but you can be led by being in the flow, that things change in your life with ease and grace. And if you do encounter a tower event, by going within, you will be held by grace. You are always held by grace, and you will be this boat that flows down the river. So the last thing I wanted to look at was the archetype of Carolyn Mace of the Shapeshifter. So for me, this is such incredible symbolism of what is in the collective unconscious. We have been fascinated by the shapeshifters. If you look at what movies they're looking at, so we can look at shapeshifters from the idea of the werewolf that changes by the full moon. Have we not had that? By the vampire that changes into a bat. The shamans of North America that can change into a bird. And the Hawaiian kahunas that can change their form into different kinds of animals. So we have some of these symbols that seem to be very negative, but I do think that is part of the collective unconscious. If you look outside of the world, then sometimes, there are people who are vampires or werewolves or that look like zombies. But these are symbols for us to say that these are archetypes of us that needs to be transformed. If you repress emotions of anger, fear, guilt, shame, these archetypes seems to form those monsters under the bed. But we can use the other shape-shifting transformation, like the dragon, turning into a dragon with fire of spirit, or turning into a unicorn, or all the beautiful symbolisms that you can use with a shapeshifter. But ultimately, for me, the symbolism of the shapeshifter turns us to our nature as energy, as spirit, as source. We are not this wood, this body that is so difficult to change. However, it's so quickly, in a couple of years, there's all these changes. And one morning you look into the mirror and you say, oh my goodness, how did I change so quickly? But in truth, we are energy. And one of our greatest powers is our imagination and our intention and our breath. And those are our true tools of shape-shifting. For that is how we create our reality. Our first creation of our reality starts with a thought, then with the intention, and then we move into it. So I can go on, but I see it's already 23 minutes. I think it's long enough. I just wanted to put my energy into the solstice and say how that numerology and archetypes can help us understand the energies of the day. I think today is an incredible opportunity to tune in. That's what I will be doing. To come to stillness, to surrender to the greater power, and ask for the highest outcome. And if we come together in love as brothers and sisters, as light workers, or whatever you want to call us, we have come to change the old systems. That is the power of the 16:7. It's like this incredible lightning bolt that was given you to change. However, you have to be mature, aware, conscious, and filled with unconditional love in order to use this 16:7 energy, which is sudden change, to its benefit. So if you have 16/7 in your chart, know that you've been given this tremendous power for change, changing old, outmoded systems and releasing stuck energy in your own life, the life of others, and perhaps in society, wherever you are placed. Use this 16/7 energy for transformation. I wish you a wonderful and a beautiful solstice, and I will see you soon. Much love.